Alright, hello everyone, welcome to NerdChat. So we are on the third issue of this Spider-Man X-Men crossover thingy.
Not counting the prequel.
Not counting the prequel. The third of the actual story that I'm covering. So this is when this entire comic starts to get really weird. This issue starts with the X-Men battling Mr. Sinister. The current X-Men team is Cyclops, Wolverine, Storm with her powers, Iceman, and Angel.
So they glossed over that arc.
Yeah, I mean, we're not covering X-Men stories here, but you can see that Wolverine is in his more recognizable yellow and blue costume.
So there's another
and Cyclops looks like he is ripped right out of the 90s.
Yeah,
so, you got an idea where we're at.
Gotta love them time skips.
Yeah, and we got 3 originals, so not bad for covering whatever this story is about.
I'm digging it.
You might notice that something is up with Angel.
Yeah, no, I noticed that right away.
Yeah, so he's been through some stuff. So now they've met Apocalypse.
Yeah, definitely met Apocalypse by now.
So now he's got his metal wings and blue face and whatnot. So yeah, go Warren.
Bastard.
So they're in the middle of a fight with Mr. Sinister. Sinister blasts through the roof of his lair, claiming, "You X-Men have become quite an annoyance. Please die," and flees. Iceman stops the debris, but Scott and Logan agree, crazy I know, that Sinister is always 2 steps ahead of them, and they really should take this opportunity to look around his lab and see if they can get a leg up. They find a lockbox, and Storm has the ability to pick the lock because Logan doesn't have metal claws right now. So he can't just...
He's got his shitty bone claws.
He's got his bone claws. Go Wolverine. How much you want to bet they get eaten later? Yeah, what I just said sounds weird. I can't wait for you to find out how. Alright, so since Logan can't cut through the lock, Storm has to actually pick it manually. I feel like Cyclops could have just blasted it, but whatever.
Punch it with your eye fists.
So we cut over to Spider-Man, who is chasing down Slide, spelled S-L-Y-D-E. He's a guy who cannot be grabbed. He's just a villain that nothing can stick to. So Spider-Man's webs don't stick to him. Slide suddenly stops running away while he's running from Spider-Man, and he suddenly stops, and he just sits down and surrenders.
What a shitty power. Don't touch me, I'm slippery.
Yeah. And Spider-Man's confused, and he's like, "Why would you surrender?" And then an ice cage forms around him. You see the whole X-Men team is just standing over Slide. So, X-Men say they need... Well, this is actually my favorite part. Is Spider-Man's like, "Oh, cool, thanks, guys." And he jumps away. They're like, "Spider-Man, I need to talk to you." He comes back like, "Yeah, that figures."
Oh my god.
So they tell him that they need to talk about the Kraven and Mr. Sinister thing again. And Spidey says, he's like, "Ah, yes, of course I remember." And Logan's like, "He's lying." And he grabs him, and he's like, "What are you playing at, Webs? And now I will show you why you weren't allowed to see that."
Oh, it's Ben.
It's Ben. This is not Peter Parker.
Oh, great.
So, Ben has memories of issue 1. He does not have memories of issue 2.
Oh.
So this is when Spidey tells him, he's like, "Alright, I'm not the Spider-Man you know." So he explains that the whole kind of clone thing, but during this time, this is when Ben believes that he is the original Peter Parker, and Peter believes that he's the clone, doesn't have his powers, and is going off to live just and have his baby with MJ. So, while they have met Spider-Man, and he smells like... Wolverine is all confused. It's like, he smells like Spider-Man, but he has to explain the whole clone thing. So, and they don't know... They don't know, though, that, he's actually the clone and whatnot. We know that Ben is the clone.
Yes.
But we don't find that out for much longer. Or they don't find that out for much longer.
I really like that this comic jumps throughout the history, but the art style is uniform throughout the series.
To a degree. Issue 1 looks a bit different than the rest.
Oh, it does?
Yeah. I didn't really show it to you. But, issues 3 and 4 both look like this.
Issue 2 is really similar.
Issue 2 is very similar. But issue 1 looks a lot... It has, a lot of a filter, like a memory kind of a thing.
Oh, okay.
So they go up to a rooftop to catch up each other on who knows what. So that's where Ben explains that he remembers the fight with Kraven and the Blob, and he knows, because he doesn't actually, Ben does not know Wolverine at all. But he's like, I know Scott, I know Warren, I know Bobby, but I don't know the rest of you. So they explain about the files that they found in the Mr. Sinister. So they explain in the files that they found in Mr. Sinister's lair that there has been communication of a data exchange between Mr. Sinister and Miles Warren.
Oh.
The man who cloned Ben, or cloned Peter and created Ben. So the notes show that Sinister's next target for a DNA sample is Cletus Cassidy. And they don't know,
bad.
The X-Men don't know who that is.
That's not
and
bad.
That's when Spider-Man's like, yeah, that's Carnage. So
that's not good.
So they're like, yeah, Carnage, yeah, they're like the evil serial killer symbiote. So they ask, well, any chance you know where he is? And he's like, by golly do I. And they go to the Ravencroft Institute. Now, we get a cut to the Ravencroft Institute before they get there. And we see that Mr. Sinister has already taken control of all the staff and mind controlled them to go to the cafeteria. And they're all just sitting there doing nothing. So he goes to Carnage's cell, and Carnage immediately tries to attack Mr. Sinister. And he gets stopped in his tracks.
Yeah, that's a fight Carnage doesn't have.
No, it is not. And Sinister promises Carnage that if he helps him, that he will let Carnage free, and that there's a large group of doctors conveniently in the cafeteria for him to eat. At least Mr. Sinister has a small sense of humor. And all he needs from Carnage is a small sample of the symbiote, which Carnage is like, freaking great, and cuts off like a piece of his finger, and he's like, here you go, great, have it. Because he just wants to be let go, because he wants to eat the doctors that he's been smelling for all this time. At that very moment is when X-Men and Spidey arrive. The fight breaks out. Wolverine goes for Carnage, and Carnage is not the least bit threatened by the Bone Claws, and literally bites them and eats Wolverine's Bone Claws.
What an asshole!
Yeah. So everyone else goes for Mr. Sinister, who is failing to control their minds. But claims that they won't last long because they all have like mental training from Xavier to stop the mind control. Storm claims that he's a fool and strikes him with lightning, while Cyclops and Iceman lay into him while he's off balance. Sinister breaks free and tries to evade their minds, and claims that their free will ends now. Wherever that moment is, right there. So, after that, I turn my page.
I love his black suit Storm.
Yeah, isn't she neat?
That is cool as hell.
Yeah, it's a very impressive looking issue. I love all their all their costumes in here. They all look cool.
Yeah, it's very 90s, but that black suited Storm I love a lot.
And on the subject of costumes, I'm kind of surprised that Ben's costume didn't stick with Peter, because I feel like that was like a good change to go with.
That was a really cool costume.
I think that was, if they were going to upgrade Spidey's suit, that was a great choice to go with. But I mean, the classic still works. But even today, it does look dated. The way that Ben's colors flow are much better.
It's much more modern, but it's probably like Captain America, where it's like. It's
just iconic.
His costume is so iconic to the people of that world that it's like, all right, give me my spangly underwear. Let's do my thing.
Yeah, that's true. So they're all having their minds started to be controlled by Mr. Sinister at this point. He's broken through their mental barriers, and Ben seems a bit unfazed, and he says, "If you like to toy with people and try to play God, then come into his mind and see how it feels." And you can see in this panel right here that he is seeing all of Ben's memories of his torment from Miles Warren, and it is literally too much for Sinister to bear.
That's Ben's been through some shit,
yes,
man.
He has. And yeah, I also want to cover that Ben Reilly, the like him coming back in his own run as the Scarlet Spider that was just like this past year. Mm-hmm. I want to go through all that and the clone conspiracy because I think it's really interesting.
I don't know anything about it. So
exactly. Like the clone conspiracy itself has been covered, but Ben's run as Scarlet Spider again has not from anyone that I've seen, and I need to talk about it because it's awesome.
I love Ben, so I'm down.
So if you guys like Ben Reilly, you stay tuned. But anyway, like I said, so this is too much for Sinister to bear, and he calls Ben a mockery of life and smacks him aside. He breaks through the wall and flees. While Carnage tries to leave, Wolverine stabs him, and Carnage looks shocked. He's like, what the hell, I ate those? Logan's, what did I say? Oh, yeah, so they captured Carnage again because they like freeze him in Iceman's ice and put him back in the cell. But Ben is left confused, and he's like, why did he call me a mockery of life? Because he's certain that he is not the clone.
Yes.
And like both him and Peter agree that Peter is the clone and Ben is the real one.
But Sinister would be able to see the truth.
Exactly, because he saw all of his memories. So he knows that he's not real. That's why I call him mockery of life, because he is the clone.
He's a clone.
He even asks Wolverine, like, if you can tell from the scent, like, if he's the clone or not. And he's like, as far as I can tell, you're the genuine deal. But he actually has a really nice moment. Logan says he and Peter smell the same, but it doesn't matter, because they wouldn't have survived today without Spider-Man, and he's Spider-Man, and that's what matters.
And that's what matters, yeah.
So now at Mr.
I
Sinister's
love Wolverine's relationship with Spider-Man.
It's really something special.
Team-ups in comics, there's so many that are just great, like Flash and Green Lantern and all that, Batman and Superman. But Wolverine and Spider-Man have something just truly special amongst team-ups.
There's just a perfect chemistry between them,
yes,
for whatever reason. So anyway, we now find out at Mr. Sinister's lab why you need the symbiote. He distilled it so that it no longer had any sentience, the symbiote itself. But it still has the genetic adaptability, so he can make a clone that will stay stable, basically.
Okay, it's a non-sentient symbiote.
It is. So he's just using the symbiote to duplicate the ability to keep whatever he's trying to build stable, so it won't fall apart, like those X-Men that we saw in issue 2.
Okay. That
they just fell apart at molecular level. But not only, but the thing is that the symbiote piece, it doesn't only duplicate abilities of the original donor, but it surpasses them. And he's making something strong enough to beat Spider-Man and the X-Men. And that's the end of issue 3. So there's one issue left.
Guardian?
And
that might do the trick.
No, it is not an Asgardian, but they're very difficult to clone.
They're very difficult to capture.
Yeah. I mean, Tony cloned Thor once, and that went very well. After it killed Goliath.
It's better than the Hydra clones.
Yeah, that's fair, too.
Hammer. Hammer and Shield.
So there is one more part to this, so subscribe, and that will be out next week, probably. This we finally get to see what Sinister has created, and it is crazy, and I love it.
I'm excited.
But yeah, you guys know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell us in the comments or join our Discord below, or check the description for the Discord, and tell us what comics you want to hear from us.
Come tell us if you love us. Come tell us that we suck.
Also those.
Come tell us about your favorite comics in our Discord.
Yeah.
We'd love to talk about comic books. And even if it's not comics, if you want to talk to us about video games,
whatever,
or movies, or whatever, we're down.
We're full cycle nerds. We'll talk about anything.
Especially Alita. We're on an Alita.
Oh, yeah. God, that was so good. All right. Well, we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.